All right, Shas survey, Mesechta Yevamos, beginning Seder Nashim. We find ourselves right now almost halfway through Shas just because of how big Seder Moed is. So we're moving along quite nicely. Mesechta Yevamos, as the name suggests, deals by and large with the mitzvah of Yibum, which the mitzvah of Yibum is that if a couple is married and unfortunately they do not have any children before the husband passes away, so the surviving brother, is commanded by the Torah to marry his widowed sister-in-law. This is an exception because normally she would be usher to him. She would be an erva to him. This is an exception to that rule. This is the Torah demanding that you have to get married, which is why, by the way, in Mesechta Yevamos is the main sugya of aseh dochalos aseh, the source of the concept of positive commandments overriding negative commandments. All takes place, that whole discussion about a 5-blot long discussion from Daf Gimel and Beis all the way through Daf Ches is all centered in Mesechta Yevamos around the concept of aseh dochalos aseh.
Isn't that like in Bris Milah?
What?
Didn't we do that in Bris Milah? Override Shabbos?
Bris Milah on Shabbos, but as a potential source for aseh dochalos aseh. But the Gemara says no, that's a special Gezeres HaKasav, because it says B'yom hashmini yimol or yimol basar or lasso, that on the 8th day it's a Gezeres HaKasav, so that must not be the source of aseh dochalos aseh. Eventually, the Gemara learns it from tzitzis. The fact that tzitzis are able to be shatnez is the aseh dochalos aseh that the Gemara uses as the source for that concept. That's the Gemara in Daf Daled Amud Beis. So this is the Yibum would be an example of an aseh dochalos aseh. Also, the Gemara doesn't use it as the example because it's yeshbo kares, because it is a very severe los aseh. But anyway, there are a number of different topics though discussed in Mesechta Yevamos. Aside for Yibum, which is the main discussion for the first half of the first parak, in the second half of the first parak, there's a large discussion about the concept of los iskodedu, the prohibition of it from the Torah of having contradictions in halacha and in minhagim in one shul or in one household. That's lo tiskodedu, which is a machlokes in Rashi and the Rambam as to why lo tiskodedu is prohibited, either according to Rashi because it's near kishtei toros, that it looks like we're observing two different Torahs, or the Rambam says that no, the problem of lo tiskodedu is not that it's near kishtei toros, but that neither opinion looks correct. It looks like it is against the concept of elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chaim. So that is the first. That's the first parak of Mesechta Yevamos. The second parak of Mesechta Yevamos continues in large the discussion about the mitzvah of Yibum. The third deals with very unique cases of Yibum, like you have a person who has two wives, and their brother is married also to two wives, and the two wives happen to be sisters with the other two wives, and it's like a whole crazy wild scenario. And basically that's the third chapter of Mesechta Yevamos. The fourth chapter of Mesechta Yevamos deals more with scenarios of Yibum and Halita, but then the second half of Mesechta of the fourth chapter deals with all the laws of Gerus. Starting from Daf Mem Hey through the end of the fourth chapter are the laws of Gerus. The fifth chapter deals with...
What does that have to do with Yevamos?
What?
I guess nothing. That's just out of the...
it comes... Yeah. It's how it gets woven in is very tangentially. It's not, if that's a word, but it comes up completely sidebar. But it's like a 4-blot discussion about Rus and Har Sinai. Then it also comes up again in Krisis on Daf Yud Tes. Krisis Daf Tes, the laws of Gerus. So then the fifth parak deals more with Yibum, and the sixth parak is the end of the discussion of Yibum, then gets into the laws of Puru Uruvu, the mitzvah of Puru Uruvu, starting from Daf Samach Aleph, Samach Beis, and then the seventh chapter deals with some of the laws of Arayos, some of the laws specifically pertaining to the Kohen Gadol. The eighth chapter, Parak Ha'arel, deals with some of the laws of Bris Milah. Then the ninth chapter is kind of like a summary of everything that happened till that point. The tenth chapter till the end of the Mesechta is like a brand new Mesechta. It's like a completely brand new Mesechta. It deals heavily with the laws of Agunos, minus the 12th chapter, which we'll talk about in a second. Deals with the laws of Agunos, that if Rahman al-Itzlan, a woman is left in a state of limbo because their husband either was lost at sea or lost in war, and she never received a get. The only way that a person can break their marriage is either through a get, through a divorce document, or through death. But if we don't know what happened to the person, so then the wife would be stuck.
You have a witness
In her marriage. Yeah, so the Gemara discusses all those halachas, that if you have a single
That's the one with the C, right?
That's right. That's what it discusses in the 15th chapter and in the 16th chapter. That's the end of the Mesechta. Then there is a very short chapter, the 12th chapter, which deals with all of the practical laws of Halita, which probably is the Mesechta that is learned most in depth today, specifically if someone is learning halacha l'maisa, because it's really the only parak that has practical ramifications today. No one really does yibum today anymore. The only thing we do today is Halita. So, the Geira sugyas and the Halita sugyas are the sugyas that are learned most in depth for their practical halachic ramifications.
There was a weird case in Moed Katan where the rabbi looked at him funny, he didn't like him. He said something to him, and then his feet inverted or something. And then he came. So if you have, God forbid, double amputee.
Yeah, Rabbi Yehuda. No, wasn't that Rabbi Yehuda?
I didn't remember who it was that looked at one of his students funny, and his feet actually flipped over. So his.
No, I thought that's the whole thing. I thought Rabbi Yehuda's a chola because he's not able to walk properly because of his feet.
I don't remember which one it was. So I'm not going to say yes or no.
Where did driving grow up?
So, so Halita. So what is Halita? Halita is, let's say the person doesn't want to do Yibum. So if the person doesn't want to do Yibum, which by the way, Yibum is not getting married to the woman. It's the most fascinating halacha. In halacha, we view as if the marriage already took place. You know what? Let me pull up the Gemara. It's the Gemara in Niddarim, actually. The Gemara Niddarim on Da Ayin Dalit, I think. Hold on. I might be wrong. I think it's Niddarim Ayin Dalit. So
now you're actually going to have to check if you're right.
What?
Now you're going to have to check if you're right because you actually got to go to the page.
Yeah, right here. Define Dalit on the base.
What?
You can do that.
He did it.
So the Gemara has right
My
over
daughter
here.
did it last week.
Whoa.
So the Gemara has that when a person does Yibum, they're not getting married. The Kinyan, so what's marriage? We'll talk about this more when we get to Mesechta Ksubas and Mesechta Kiddushin. But marriage has two parts. There's kiddushin and nisuin. There's the isolation of and the acquisition of literally acquiring the woman as your wife. That's kiddushin. And then nisuin is the two of you becoming a married couple. Okay, and those are two different processes. So the first part, kiddushin, you don't need to do with the Yevama. All you do with the Yevama is you live with her. So
she's already forbidden to any other man until
she's already. So what does that mean? So look at the language of this Gemara. This is unbelievable language over here in the Gemara. That with regard to the I just want to make sure I have the right Gemara over here. In the context, it's in the context of Nidarim. It's in the context of Nidarim over here. But Rabbi Kiva, the way he describes the marriage of Yibum, the relationship of Yibum, is that she's kfar huknu lo min hashamayim. Here. Shehuknu lo min hashamayim. They're already married. Hiknu lo min hashamayim. And the Rambam uses the exact same language. The Rambam.
So hiknu is from
according to Shamayim, they're already married. Give me 1 second. The Rambam says right over here in Hilchos, in the beginning of Hilchos Yibum. The Rambam says, mitzvahs esse min Torah. There's a mitzvah from the Torah to get married. There's a mitzvah from the Torah to do Yibum. And then the Rambam uses the following language. It says, min ha-Torah, eino tzarich lekadesh yevimto. That from the Torah, you don't need to do kiddushin. Why? Shezu ishto. Because she's already your wife. Shehuknu lo min hashamayim. Because you already got married from heaven. Hashem already did the kiddushin for you. Hashem already did the first part of the marriage for you. Now you just have to live together, and that would be the fulfillment of the mitzvah. But let's say a person doesn't want to do that. So if you're already married, if it's kfar huknu lo min hashamayim, so what are you going to do? So you have to do Halita. So the Mishna in the beginning of the 12th parak says, mitzvahs Halita, b'shlosha dayanim, that the mitzvah of Halita, this divorce from Yibum, is in front of 3 judges. Va'afilu shlosha hedyotos, and even if they are 3 regular people, meaning they don't need to be the most advanced dayanim in the world, they just really need to know Hilchos Halita is what it says in Shulchan Aruch. Halita b'menal chalza kashera. So you do Halita, which is basically removing of the shoe, and there's a whole process. You spit in front of the person. There's a few psukim you have to say. Anyway, that is essentially the divorce from your marriage of being the shomeres yavam, that you are already quote unquote married to one another. Yeah. Okay. So now the question is, and this is it's a big machlokas, and this is probably the most famous and most common machlokas that comes up in Mesechta Yevamos, which is which mitzvah is preferable to do. So it's kind of a funny question because it's what do you mean? Which mitzvah is preferable to do, Yibum or Halita? It's obvious that Yibum is preferable to do. You read the psukim in the Torah, and the Torah makes it quite obvious that one is supposed to do Yibum over Halita. Let's pull up the psukim.
Shame. Jacob wants to teach the rest of the class.
No, it's okay.
What did I tell you, Gavin?
No, that's why we were laughing earlier, because I was like, it only took him about it took 15 minutes to realize that you.
No, I thought this was just a side topic and we were going to go talk about something else.
Hold on. Let's get the.
Go get another candy snack for yourself, Jack.
Here. The
Also,
psukim.
I was mixing it up.
So
and,
so
I
we'll
thought it
do
had
so
something
so so stay tuned and maybe you'll learn something else. Ki yesh v'achim yachdav. The two brothers are living at the same time, which, by the way, the Gemara talks about. Let's say on Daf Yud Zayin, the Gemara talks about. Let's say a scenario where you have a brother, you have a person who's married, and then the fellow passes away before they have any children. And then after he passes away, his parents have another son. So now does his widow have to do yibum with her baby brother-in-law when he grows up, obviously.
Yachdav, right? Isn't it?
That's right. So the Gemara learns from Ki yesh v'achim yachdav. Actually, Rashi al Torah points it out. Shahaysa lehem yeshiva achas ba'olam, that they're living together in the world. Prat le'eshes achiv shelo haya ba'olamo. Excluding, it is on Daf Yud Zayin, Yevamos Yud Zayin. Umeis echad mehan, and then one of them passes away. Uben ein lo, he doesn't have a son, or he doesn't have a child. Lo tiyeh eshes hameis hachutza li'ishzar. She shouldn't go marry someone else. Yevami yavo aleo lekacha lo liisha v'yibma. They should get married. And then the Gemara continues, and then it says v'im lo yichbot ha'ish. But if he doesn't want to do, if he doesn't want to get married to her, lakachas lo yivim es yivimto v'alsa yivimto ashara. So he should take his yivama. He should take this woman to Beis Din al zakenim v'amra me'ein yivmi lahakim la'achim shem b'Yisrael. I don't want to continue my brother's name in the Jewish people. Lo avo yivimi. The way that we're describing this is kind of like this is not the recommended approach, that one should not do this. Rather, we give him a new nickname. We give him the nickname of lo chafatzi lakachta, that I don't want to take her. This is not obviously this is the second choice over here. But
the man
has two opinions. Which one's preferable? Yeah.
Then we get the nickname of the man whose shoe was removed or something, or that?
The Cholot Hanal. Yeah. So says the Mishnah. So the Gemara quotes from the Mishnah over here. This is the Mishnah in Krisos on Daf Yud Gimel, or Bechoros Daf Yud Gimel. Where is it? Bechoros Daf Yud Gimel. The Gemara quotes from the Mishnah in Bechoros and Daf Yud Gimel. Tnan Hasan. Mitzvahs Yibum kodemas the mitzvahs Halita. That the mitzvah of Yibum is preferable to do than the mitzvah of Halita, of course, obviously. But then the Gemara explains, it says, Birishona, Shayam Miskavna l'shem mitzvah. When we were able to have proper kavanah for the mitzvah, so then the mitzvah of Yibum is preferable to the mitzvah of Halita. Achshav, however, now, She'ein Miskavna l'shem mitzvah, that we do not have proper intent for the mitzvah. So then, Amru mitzvahs Halita kodemas the mitzvahs Yibum. Then Halita trumps Yibum. Amarav ein kofen ki oso lekaima derav. Amru, okay, fine. So the Gemara says that this is a so this machlokes clearly. So the Mishnah clearly says that the mitzvah of Halita is better than the mitzvah of Yibum. The Gemara now continues to explain this brisa. Barishona shayim miskavnen l'shem mitzvah. Mitzvahs Yibum kodemes l'mitzvah Halita. Va'achshav she'em miskavnen l'shem mitzvah. Amru mitzvahs Halita kodemes l'mitzvahs Yibum. That it depends when in history we're talking about, when we were had proper intention for mitzvahs. So then the mitzvah of Yibum was preferable to the mitzvah of Halita. However, nowadays that is not the case, and therefore it's better to do Halita. Says the Gemara, Abba Shal says, Hakonis is yivimto l'shem noi. Abba Shal takes us a step further. He says, if someone takes their yavama, they live with their yavama, they take her as their full wife, but they do it for the wrong reason. L'shem noi, l'shem ishus, l'shem davar acher. They do it for ulterior motives. Ki'ilu pogea be'erva. So then that original heter from the Torah falls away. It's like he's living with an erva with arayos. The karavani be'enai liyosav vlad mamzer, and it would seem to me that the vlad, the child that is born from this union, would be a mamzer. That's the opinion of Abba Shaul. He really takes this concept from the Mishnah and Bechoros a step further. But the Chachamim say, what are you talking about? Yevam yavo aleh mikol makom. That the mitzvah of Yibam is preferable. The Chachamim argue on the Mishnah in Bechoros. It's a second opinion. The Mishnah Bechoros is going like Abba Shaul. But the Chachamim say, no, Yevam yavo aleh mikol makom. Regardless, Yibam is always preferable to do over Halita, no matter what. So before we get to
that Yibam is preferable over Halita, or it is valid no matter what his intentions are, but we don't do it because.
So the way, so the Gemara, the way the Gemara is bringing down this machlokas is that they're telling you should always do Yibam. Let's see Rashi. Yavam yavo aleh mitzvah alav liyibma yoser min hachalitza. Better to do Yibam than to do Halita.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the way it's quoted in the Rambam also, by the way. The Rambam quotes the Rabbanan.
So when did they switch it off? Was it in the Mishnah, the Gemara, the Richoning?
No, so this is a machlokas between Abba Shaul and the Chachamim. And
no, but nowadays you cannot do Yibum, right?
Well, we're going to see that this machlokas continues on through the generations. Let's see the Rishonim. Take a look over here.
I remember that from last time. I thought
I thought it was like Rabbi Meir Hagaol or something. Didn't he ban it, or was that just what's it called? Multiple wives.
What?
Didn't Rabbi Meir Hagaol? What's his name? Rabbi Meir Hagaola? What's it with the one who banned having multiple wives? He didn't ban Chalitza as well.
No, Rabbeinu Gershom.
Gershon. Oh, Gershon.
Yeah, Rabbeinu Gershom. No. He didn't ban Yibam.
Oh, okay.
No. Yibam was done by Sephardic communities. In fact, the Shulchan Aruch. So the Rambam paskins you do Yibam. Again, we're going to see Tosos. Let's just see Tosos. Tosos says Omer Rabbeinu Tam Halacha Abba Shaul. The Halacha follows Abba Shaul. He's going to explain why in a minute. But Tosos paskins like Abba Shaul. The Rabbeinu Hanan paskins like Abba Shaul that we do Halita. The Nimuke Yosef paskins we do Halita. Most Rishonim paskin we do Halita. For the Rambam paskins we do Yibam, and the Shulchan Aruch paskins like the Rambam that Yibam is preferable than Halita.
Even though the Mishnah, the Gemara clearly states that we used to do Yibam and now we do Halita.
The Mishnah, but that Mishnah is going like Abba Shaul.
Okay, so he says he doesn't hold by that opinion.
Yeah, the Chachamim is a separate opinion. The Chachamim is the majority, right? So the Rambam paskins like the Chachamim, and the Shulchan Aruch paskins like the Rambam, and Rav Ovadia, who is a purist in the sense that he follows Maran Beit Yosef across the board, was trying to bring Yibum back to Sephardic communities in the land of Israel. It was, I think, probably one of his only, maybe there were 2 or 3 other battles that Rav Ovadia had that he didn't win. This was one of the only battles he did not win, Rav Ovadia, that it was very hard to reinstitute Yibum, and eventually he gave up. And Yibum was not reinstituted through the Batei Dinim in Eretz Yisrael, the Sephardic Batei Dinim. But he attempted to, because it's the psak of Shulchan Aruch, it's the psak of the Rambam, that Yibum is preferable than Chalitza. Rabbeinu Tam, though, says that when you survey Shas seems to indicate that Halita is preferable. There is one Mishnah, though, that is difficult that the Rishonim grapple with, because this Mishnah seems to say that, according to Abba Shaul, he's saying that if you were to do Yibum, it's like you are pogea be'erva, and the vlad would be a mamzer, and it's a very, very serious thing according to Abba Shaul. So it's strange that Rabbeinu Tam would say that Abba Shaul is really, if you survey Shas, they all go like Abba Shaul. It just doesn't seem accurate when you see this Mishnah, because the Mishnah says Habal Yevimto Bein B'Shogig Bein B'Mezid, that if someone lives with their Yevama, but they do it either unintentionally or deliberately, meaning they do it for for his own enjoyment, bein ba'ones, bein baratzon, or if God forbid he rapes her, in such a scenario where he forces himself upon her, the Mishnah says, kana, that the yibum is a good yibum. That is just seems so crazy, because okay, I understand if the person somehow had proper intention. So even Abba Shaul would say that it's a good yibum. But I mean, this is like taking Abba Shaul's concern and magnifying it. He's literally forcing himself upon her. What?
You wouldn't want to create a mamzer though, right? I mean, isn't that why?
I understand he doesn't want to, but if Abba Shaul is assuming that if you do yibum for the wrong reasons, that you are living with an erva, so then by definition the offspring of that union is a mamzer. It's not that he's creating it; it's just the consequence of your actions.
Where's my chips going?
The basic result. So the Richoning struggle with this. The Nimuki Yosef says basically, he comments on this, the Ritva gives the same answer, that they say, well, Abba Shaul did not mean that on a level d'oraisa, meaning even Abba Shaul, obviously on a level d'oraisa, it's better to do yibum. It's a rabbinic enactment that someone should do Halita over yibum because you're not going to have proper intention. But if the person did yibum anyway, the kinyan is going to be chal. There is, though, a Beis Shmuel. The Beis Shmuel is a commentary on Shulchan Aruch that he quotes this when Shulchan Aruch quotes this Mishnah. The Beis Shmuel says, and he quotes the question of the Mukhi Yosef, and he says, even if Abba Shaul was an Isser D'Oraisa, still the kinyan would be chal. Which last time, Jacob, we discussed about Iyavid Lo Mahani, that would seem that it's against how we paskin that if you go deliberately against an Isser in the Torah in order to create a chalos, that the chalos is not chal, it doesn't work, the result does not come to fruition, and that this Beis Shmuel would seem to be against that. But we're not going to discuss that now. But just according to at least the Beis Shmuel, Abba Shaul is deadly serious that if you live with the person for the wrong reasons, that is potentially an Isser D'Oraisa, and it's like you're living with an erva, and that the result of which would be that the child is a mamzer. So the question that you have to ask whenever you see a machlokas in the Tanaim and the Amoraim, even the Rishonim and the Achronim, you have to ask yourself, what is the nekudas machlokas? What are they really arguing about? Meaning, why, if at the end of the day it says in the Torah, Yevamo yavo aleh, why is Abba Shaul so concerned about you doing yibum? The Torah obviously knows that people aren't perfect, and yet it's still encouraging a person to do yibum. So then, how does Abba Shaul deal with the fact that the Torah says Yevamo yavo aleh? And how are the Chachamim going to deal with the fact that, well, if you don't do it for the right reasons, so then why is that not going to shter? Why is that not going to ruin and degrade your fulfillment of the mitzvah to the point that it's actually like you're living with an erva? So what's the nekudas hamachlokas over here? So there's a number of different explanations. One explanation comes from Rav Hanan Wasserman in the Kobos Ha'aros. Kobos Ha'aros is a beautiful sefer on Mesechta Yevamos that was written by Rav Hanan Wasserman. Rav Hanan Wasserman in his lifetime wrote two Sfarim. All the other writings we have from Rav Hanan Wasserman are the recording the notes from Talmidim, but there were two Sfarim that he wrote himself. The two Sfarim he wrote is the first sefer he wrote was Kuntras Divrei Sofrim, which is a guide to understand rabbinic law that he wrote as a pamphlet for his high school students.
Is it available in English?
I don't know if anyone ever translated it, but it would be a great
sounds like a useful book.
It'd be a great project to do to translate. He wrote it because he understood that is philosophically an area of Torah that's difficult to commit yourself to when you don't properly understand it. So he wrote a pamphlet for high school students that he knew would be grappling with it, called Kuntras Divrei Sofrim. And the other sefer he wrote was Koves Ha'aros, which were his comments on Mesechta Yevamos. So in the Koves Ha'aros, they're actually like essays on Mesechta Yevamos. So Rav Hanan explains that the machlokas between Abba Shal and the Chachamim really comes from a Gemara in Rosh Hashanah and Daf Chav Ches. The Gemara has a machlokas with regard to whether or not mitzvos are trichos kavana, and we discussed this. We must have discussed this when we learned Mesechta Rosh Hashanah in the Shas survey about mitzvos trichos kavana, whether or not there is a requirement to have kavana when fulfilling a mitzvah. Basically, if you don't have kavana when fulfilling a mitzvah, does the mitzvah register? That's the machlokas that the Gemara has in Rosh Hashanah and Daf Chav Ches. And says Rav Hanan, that would seem to be the machlokas between Abba Shal and the Chachamim. That if you assume mitzvah trichas kavana, that kavana is part and parcel of the mitzvah itself, that basically you cannot fulfill the mitzvah unless you have proper kavana, so then it would make sense then why Abba Shal would be concerned about yibum, because if he's saying that it's almost impossible for a person to have kavana for the mitzvah of yibum, so then you are not going to be fulfilling the mitzvah of yibum. If you're not fulfilling the mitzvah of yibum, so then what are you doing? You're living with an erva. That's why you should do chalitza. According to the Chachamim, though, says Rabbi Hanan, they are assuming mitzvos ein on trichas kavana. You don't need kavana for mitzvos. Kavana is not a prerequisite for the fulfillment of the mitzvah. You could fulfill a mitzvah even without kavana, and therefore there'd be nothing wrong with doing yibum. It's not going to prevent you from fulfilling the mitzvah, and therefore you're not going to be living with an erva. That's Rabbi Hanan's explanation. Rabbi Aaron Kotler had a different explanation. Rabbi Aaron Kotler's explanation of the machlokas between Abba Shal and Chachamim as to whether or not mitzvah's yibum is better than mitzvah's chalitza, or chalitza is better than mitzvah's yibum. He felt as though the machlokas is about whether or not chalitza is a mitzvah. Is chalitza a mitzvah? What else would it be? It would be a matir. So the chalitza, just like gerushin, just like divorce, or shchita, or there are two elements to the mitzvah that when you fulfill the or when you do the action, it makes something that had a status of isser into heter. So when a woman gets divorced, beforehand she was usser to any other man in the world. Then when she gets divorced, she's mutter to every man in the world, right? When a person shechs an animal, before you shech the animal, it was usser to eat. Now the animal is kosher to eat. You've removed the isser from the animal. You've created a matir. Chalitza does the same thing. Before chalitza, the woman is prohibited to be with any other man. After chalitza, she can be with any other man. That's a matir. So is chalitza really a mitzvah? Says Rabbi Aaron Kotler, or is it a function is it a process in order to make the woman muteres? That's that's the way Rabbi Aaron Kotler says is the machlokes in Abba Shal and Chachamim. According to Abba Shal, chalitza is a mitzvah, and so if it's a mitzvah, why would I choose the mitzvah that I won't be able to do with proper kavana versus the mitzvah I can do with proper kavana? Better I choose chalitza, which I'm going to be able to do with proper kavana, as opposed to the Chachamim who would say no, chalitza is not a mitzvah; it's a matir. It's a function, it's a system in order to make her muteres, to make her permissible to other men. And therefore, why would you lose out on the mitzvah of yibum by choosing chalitza, which is not even a mitzvah? That's the machlokas according to Rabbi Aaron Kotler. It's a little bit difficult to understand the machlokas only because of Abba Shal's very severe language about nir be'enai shavlad holid mamzer. It could be speaking b'derech guzma that he's exaggerating a little bit, or it's only midrabanan. He's prohibiting it because he'd rather you do chalitza than yibum because there's a mitzvah you can do. So that part of it is a little bit unclear according to Rabbi Aaron Kotler's explanation. But that's the general machlokas between Abba Shal and the Chachamim, and that is a lot of the discussion surrounding Meseches Yevamos.
Okay. Let's say you actually I was thinking say Rabbi Simcha Bassman, who never had children, and he passed away. What it is?
You ever meet him? You weren't living here, were you?
No, I don't know. I mean, he started the school. I don't know. It must have been in the early 80s. I mean, well, when did he pass away? It was a long time ago, no?
Yeah.
But if let's say he passes away,
his 30th yahrzeit or his 30th yahrzeit was just now.
Yeah, I mean, we've only been here 17 years ago. We basically moved here after Jacob was born. That's how I can track it. But when he passed away, I guess he passed away a week before his wife, right? But now, does she actually have to do Halita if she's 70 years old and has no intention to get married?
Great question. You answer based on what we just learned.
Only if she wants to marry someone else. Well, depending on who you hold by.
If you hold Halita is a mitzvah,
then she has to do it.
Then she would do it. But if Halita is a matir, if it's simply just making her available to other men, if she's not planning on dating, then she doesn't need to do Halita.
Well, she I think only lived 1 week after him, so that someone could.
But I don't think he had any other children that were alive anyway.
Huh?
He didn't have any brothers that were alive.
Yeah, that was a technicality. But I was wondering if.
But yeah, if
he reminded me.
Rav Shechter would tell us scenarios. Rav Shechter's gotten this practical question before, that a woman would call him up and say, "I don't really want to do chalitza. I'm not planning on getting married." Rav Shechter feels as though we paskin the chalitza is a matir.
Okay.
Yeah, so he wouldn't force the woman to do chalitza. Yeah.
Rabbi.
Okay, I wanted to close with a Mesechta with a Gemara from the end of the Mesechta that Rabbi Frand made famous. I don't know. Did he mention it in this year's Tshuva Drasha, Gavin?
I'm going to say, I'll tell you once you tell me the Gemara.
You know the Gemara about Rabbi Akiva that he was drowning at sea. And he grabbed onto a daf shel sfina. He grabbed onto a plank of the ship.
Yeah.
The ship capsized, and what saved him was that he grabbed onto a piece of the ship, and he sailed on it until he got to shore into safety. He was nitzol from a daf hasfina. So Rabbi Frand has a famous drasha where he says, you see, the daf can save you, right? Where is it? I'm not sure, but I wanted to show you this Gemara, the very last Gemara in Yevamos, a Gemara that for sure you're familiar with. Jacob, can you read this?
I don't know if he's familiar with it.
For sure he's familiar with it. We're all familiar with it. What?
Are you sure he's reading that part? He's not there for
Elon, read it.
Torah.
I hope you don't say it.
Amr Abelazar Ber B'Chanina. No, Amr B'Chanina.
Really? You didn't read it when you were chazan on Shabbos?
I was told not to. The congregation goes too fast.
Talmidei Chachamim marbim shalom ba'olam.
Same with Bamei Madlikim.
That isn't Bamei Madlikim.
Yeah, as the pasuk says, Chol banayich lomdei Hashem, v'rob shalom banayich. Okay, that Talmidei Chachamim bring shalom to the world, as the pasuk says, v'chol banayich lemudei Hashem. That the children are taught the ways of Hashem, are taught Torah for Av Shalom Banayich, and then that creates peace. So there are 4 Mesechtas that end with this Gemara. 4 Mesechtas. What are the 4 Mesechtas? New. What else? Brachos. Good.
Yeah.
What? Not Mesechta.
I was just gonna go.
He gets Peah. I think he's talking about what's it called? In
Gemara. New. So Brachos.
I've only done Brachos.
Yevamos, obviously.
No, because I remember
Nazir,
haven't done that one.
and Chrysos.
See, the one that I've done, I remembered. How's that? Deal with it.
So the Aruch Laner, I believe over here, the Aruch Laner in Yevamos points out, he says, V'chol banayech, Brachos, Nazir, Yevamos, Chrysos.
Ooh.
Not bad, right?
Not bad.
Not bad. All right, guys. Shkoyech.
Rabbi, it took me
He's got to switch off the recording.